as a busboy at the House of Beef and Seafood and just ate off people's plates when I brought them back to the kitchen. And then I got back to Salt Lake and I felt like such a failure, like this big adventure that I wanted to have. I felt like I failed at it. But then when I told people the stories and told them about like what happened, like they were so enraptured by like everything that went wrong. And I realized like, oh, no one wants to hear that you like set a goal and you accomplish that goal. Like, who cares? They want to hear about all the other shit that happened.
That's what Creative Block's about. That's what the podcast's about. We want those failures, right?
So it definitely rewired my brain. Like after that, like the next summer I ran away to go live in the jungle in Mexico, south of Puerto Vallarta for the summer.
You hadn't had enough? You hadn't had enough from the other one.
Oh no, that was just the beginning. So but after that, because of like my brain getting rewired, that that's the adventure, all the stuff that goes wrong. And that's why Flapjack was called The Misadventures of Flapjack, because that's what I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell all of the things that went wrong. So now, and it's gotten more and more intense as I get older. As soon as things start going wrong, I'm like, okay, here we go. This is it. This is the adventure. And so it's affected, how I live. And I like genuinely like so excited. I rock climb now and I'm like, I love when it gets gnarly. I love when it's like, how the fuck am I going to get out of this? And in Mexico and the next summer, like that's when it got really great and spicy. And it's translated to like how I write. I try to get to those moments where you're like, how the fuck am I going to get out of this? And I think because I've experienced that so much, I know what it feels like. And I love the problem solving to get out of it. And, both in my real life and in my storytelling, like now we have a real story. If the audience is totally just enraptured in what's happening and has no idea how we're going to get out and is at the edge of their seats, you did it. That's storytelling. And then if you can find a satisfying, believable way out of it, then you did it.
That's awesome. That is so great. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for like sharing all of these experiences and also how that's the way you found how to tell the story. And like, it's so great to kind of put the story and then your takeaway from it all together. It just like makes it like so cool to hear.
If you were to have to sum up how you get through Creative Block in like one sentence, what would you say? Like if you just a simple answer.
I mean, this is not an exciting answer.
It doesn't have to be exciting.
But this is real. For me, by far the best way is just to sit down and start writing. And I know a lot of people are like, I don't start writing until I have the idea already down, or I don't start boarding. That is not what works. I mean, sometimes in storyboarding, but as far as writing goes, I sit down to write 10 ideas, and usually one of them is like, oh, that's it. Oh my gosh. And then I'm off and running. But usually the trick is to like, okay, I'm going to just brainstorm ideas, and then one of them just like unlocks the rest of it, and it's off you go.
I love it.
That's a good answer.
Great.
I like that.
That's a great answer. Yeah. Well, I don't want to take you away from the mice furniture building for too long, so we can.
I love these little mice and furniture. Are these yours, Sean? Is it Sean's on the left and V's on the right? Is that what's happening?
They're all scrambled up, but I did do the mice furniture. Thank you.
Yes.
These are amazing. Amazing. Yeah, actually, in train hopping, there's like piggybacks where they stack a couple of shipping containers on top of each other. But the ones that I usually got were like grain bins or like scrap steel bins. And something that I didn't know until years after doing it is that they'll just roll into a station and then just drop like thousands of tons of steel scrap on top of you. So you will die.
Oh my God.
I'm glad that you're still here. I'm glad that
I'm on.
Now we have a story. Yeah, it's like all the scraps are on top of you. Like
Yeah, that's the end of the episode. Now we have a third.
Now we have
Thank you guys.
Well, I guess that is the end of this creative block. Thurop, thank you so much for being our guest and sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was so fun.
Thank you so much. And also,
Woo.
I want to give a quick shout out to our listeners. Follow us on social media at CRTV Block, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to our editor, Clemens, for editing the podcast, Marco for helping us produce the show, and Abuka for creating the short clips that we've been putting out.
If you like our show, you can support us on Patreon. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interviews and access to our Discord community. And another way you can support us is to comment, like, subscribe, all of this social media engagement.
We're on Newgrounds now.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we are. Click the link in the description of this episode to access our Patreon and everything. I've been your host, V.
And I was Sean. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Woo woo. Bye.
Creative Block. I'm your host, Gene.
And V. We interview people in the animation industry about their life, work, and hobbies while we doodle jam.
We asked people on Twitter if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts.
And today with us, we have Jonan Vasquez.
Hey!
Hey, howdy.
Hi, Joan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Wow, you're the shark from Toy Story. We
Yeah,
have the
I
shark
love
from
that
Toy
shark.
Story.
I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy.
I love that shark. For those who don't know, tell us who you are and what you do.
Tell them about me. I'm Jonan, and are you bad at this too? Are you bad when people
Yeah.
ask you what you do?
Yeah, because
Tell me about yourself.
Tell us about yourself. Well, let's see. I'll fill in the blanks so that you can then choose what you want to elaborate on. You did some comics, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
I've done comics. So yeah, I did Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. I did Squee, and I Feel Sick, and I never include stuff like the Bad Art Collection or Filler Bunny because I feel like they're not the ones that people would even remember, but they were the best ones.
It's part, yeah, totally. It's part of your bibliography.
I love that word.
Yeah, it's a good word. And then you, of course, created Zim.
I did. I like to think of it as inventing it.
You birthed it.
I birthed
How do you feel
it.
about birthed it?
I violently birthed it. I swelled up. My belly became transparent, and you could see this little Zim forming in there, and then it just popped and just splashed across the planet.
That's cute. And and then you made a movie recently, a Zim movie, Into the Florpus. That was fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun until it wasn't fun, like most projects.
That's animation, I
It
think.
was fun until it wasn't fun.
It's
Yeah.
every project though, right? Like it's always super exciting at the beginning, and then it's like, man, this is kind of going on for too long.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's-
it definitely went on for way too long.
Yeah, but it came out great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Babby Jonan and kind of how you got your start.
I was a fat baby.
Okay, I'm gonna draw that.
I was a fat baby. I've seen pictures of me, and I was just real round.
Okay, plump.
I was basically, oh no. You know, I gotta commend you on finding a drawing program that's actually worse than whiteboard.
I know. We're doing.
This is horrendous.
We're doing our
Listen,
best.
I'm gonna die on this hill, but I love Google.
Yeah?
It's my favorite big tech.
Oh no, what happened there? What happened there?
Just
Why
go
is
with it. It doesn't matter. This-
What happened there? Why is there a circle on top of my circle?
I don't know, because it like lags and sometimes I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
It's just a fun little trick. It's just a spicing up the drawing experience.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's kind of
Is unpredictable.
yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, so you were a round baby.
You're
and-
a round baby. Tell us about that.
From what I've seen, my memories of being round, I only have pictures. I don't have memories. I just have memories of looking at pictures and going, "Man, was I round?"
Mhm.
Did you always like drawing, or like kind of what was your relationship
Yes,
to drawing?
I've
when you
always-
were...
I don't know. It's weird to think about because I just always imagine every kid likes drawing,
Yeah.
and then I just
Mhm.
never stopped. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
totally.
it's not something that I'm like hyper conscious of. It's just I kept going where everyone else just
Yeah.
snapped their crayons and pencils in half and screamed, I'm grown up now."
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that like that doesn't get talked about enough. The idea that I think every kid is capable of being a successful artist. Like it's just there's no such thing as real artistic talent. I mean, maybe there's like a predisposition, but like anybody can become an artist if they worked at it. Most kids just don't bother. They get told not to
Right.
or whatever.
I don't think they're gifts. I think there's just drive,
Yeah.
and it just happens to like, wow, your drive ended up really firing up when you were drawing, and then that made you want to keep doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get in that argument a lot with some people.
Some
A
people, yeah,
lot.
every day. But yeah. So you just kind of didn't stop.
Yeah. It's just a thing that didn't ever happen to me. I know, and I never thought of myself. Maybe in high school, maybe in high school I thought of myself as an artist,
Mhm.
you know, but I don't really think of myself like that. It's a thing that I can do, and I can do to a certain, at a certain level, but it's just fun.
Mhm.
It always was fun. And I think that's just, it stops being a thing that people do as like a means of just sort of channeling fun. I'm uncomfortable around people who are very serious about their art, even
yeah.
if what they do is considered more serious. I don't like when people act that way. I don't like. I'm uncomfortable around people who are just, I am an artist, and I respect that, but I don't want to be in the room with it.
No, I feel you. Is there
Yeah.
something you do consider yourself to be, or do you just not like the labeling?
Yeah, the labeling just sounds pretentious, so I think I would just rather be
Sure.
called
A human.
a magician
Uh-huh.
of the imagination.
A visual. Okay. Imagination wizard.
Yeah.
That's
I
pretty
like
good.
that.
Dude, fuck it. Yeah, I'm gonna start calling myself that too. Let's start it.
Do you I was gonna ask, in middle school or high school, did you do anything like art classes or were you just kind of like doodling in your notebooks, or kind of what was?
A little bit of both. I was always really bad at art classes. I was bad in them. I got yelled at a lot for just being distracted or it and I regret that in a lot of ways. I did take art classes and I didn't pay enough attention, and I think it shows. But I think what the result is that I draw the way that I do, and I always say that my style, my distinct style, is the result of me just not paying attention to how you're supposed to draw.
Yeah.
And I would definitely love to absorb way more talented people's powers
Mhm.
if that was a thing that I could do, but I would never trade that, whatever it is that makes my stuff look clearly like my stuff, versus someone who has incredible skills but just doesn't, no personality comes out in it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No, that makes
Mhm.
sense.
I was gonna ask that about your art, actually. Is that like reading, like the first introduction I've ever had to your art was through Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, I've never seen anything that looks like remotely like this. Like not just the writing, but also the drawing, like, and like the panels, everything. Well, also I wasn't very familiar with a lot of like indie comics at the time. So, I mean, for me, it was just like, there's a lot of personality here. And I was going to ask you, like, there's like almost a sense of like, you don't really care about what people are going to think about what you do. You just do it. And is that true?
Yeah, I think it's a sort of at this point it's sort of like a very well guarded sort of a thing. I don't know. It's just because I've been doing it for so long. It's just something that I've always done. It's always been sort of like a thing that I've done in private. Like just drawing for me I didn't have like a big group of people that I shared ideas with. I loved sharing my stuff with anyone who would listen, but it wasn't a lot of people because no one wanted to. They're like, that's cool, but a lot of people didn't seem to care in the way that I cared. Yeah, I think it's important, especially these days. I think maybe I talk about this a lot, but I think about not giving a shit as a rule, and I want a lot of the people that do stuff that I like to not give a shit about what I want.
Right.
I want to be surprised by what comes out of this other person. They're not me, and therefore they're way more interesting in terms of work coming out of. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm going to do. There's no surprise.
Yeah.
And I don't want even if they're doing something that I love, and I'm looking forward to. Oh, I hope they do this with this idea. Oh, how exciting would it be if they did this? I don't want for them to listen to me. I want to be surprised by being disappointed
Sure.
by the turn that it takes, or surprised, or just like, or perfectly pleased with, oh shit, there it is, they pulled it off, this is great.
That's awesome. I was gonna, yeah, like you kind of answered also like another follow-up question I was gonna ask, but like I was gonna ask kind of like when you make something, what's kind of like your primary audience? Is it more like yourself or like do you have
It's
like
definitely myself, which isn't to say that I don't, it's not a complete I don't give a shit about an audience kind of a thing. I give a shit about people having a good time or being impressed or liking something or disliking something in some intelligent way where they can express why it didn't, do what they wanted it to do. But I don't do it to make people happy. I do it to make me happy and hope that enough people like what I like. And I've always done that. I get weirded out when I see and I know it's just a different attitude, but I'll see artists, pretty well known and established artists, doing stuff. I'll see like them on Twitter, and they're like, "Hey, guys." Hey, strangers out there, tell me which direction I should go with this thing. And I'm just like, and that makes me so uncomfortable and angry and sickened.
Yeah, that's
maybe
disgusted.
Maybe not as strong as that, but I do think
It's like, oh God.
on some level I do think gross.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you're giving up a part of yourself to pander to an audience, and that's kind of missing the point of like
sure,
of making things.
but I always have to stop myself because I don't know these artists. I do, but I don't know their minds. I don't know how serious they're taking it. How, like, it might just be fun, but for me, I'm just like, no, don't let them in. Don't let them in.
Yeah.
People are responsible for every terrible thing I know of. And when you're asking them, hey, get involved in this precious thing of mine, it's I don't know, leads to bad stuff.
Yeah. Historically, definitely it kind of always happens that way. It's kind of, I think that it can be used as a weapon for good, because there's been stuff, I think, with
no doubt.
Yeah, with the way that like new media, with the way that like the internet is kind of folded into everything, like there's something cool. I imagine being a kid and a creator of something you like asks you for your input and you get to contribute. It's probably
sure.
It is like the best shit ever. And I think of like something like Homestuck, where in the beginning it was so influenced by people because they were straight up voting on what was going to happen next. But then the fandom takes hold of it, and then it starts to become suffocating. And then even in Homestuck's case, Hussey had to like pull back and be like, no, I'm doing this story now. Like none of you are influencing this anymore.
But also, like, I feel like any fandom gets like this. Like Star
Yes.
Wars never had the input of the fans, and they took like.
Well, I feel like the newest movies suffer because they started listening to the fans. It feels like they're trying. It's all fan service, and it like doesn't work.
Yeah. I can't even imagine anything that big, though, working on anything
it's
that
insane.
big. You've got a whole, like we were talking about the Ninja Turtles people earlier before we started, and Ninja Turtles is super cool. But I'd been asked, would you ever work on Ninja Turtles?
Well, you did.
But I did, but as a short, which is very attractive. That's way more
I love that
attractive.
short.
It's like a few months, you're in, you're out, and it's done. And you got to work on some turtle stuff, and you're like, there you go, I did it. But the thought of like being like a showrunner on something like that, Andy Siriano at the time,
and Ant,
and Ward, great guys. But they took on something just that I think I'd lose my mind.
Yeah.
Taking on, it's just you're not just being creative, you're not just making a thing, which is just kind of like the primary part of just working on a show, but you have so many things to address that aren't just creative. You're dealing with a franchise, you're dealing with so many masters who need you to who need this thing to hit so many targets. It's like working on like a Marvel movie or something, or just something
definitely
gigantic that isn't just yours. It belongs to so many people.
It's terrifying.
Right.
Somebody we had a question actually. Somebody asked if there is any existing IP that you would want to kind of do your take on. Is there anything that you would do that for?
I used to want to do my own take on an alien movie. But
Oh.
man, oh man, did they cure me of that after
Oh, yeah.
after the billionth horrible just go at it. It's I don't think I'm even heartbroken about Alien anymore or Aliens. It's been so long.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a resurgence in hope around the time of Prometheus, and then that just plunged a freaking spear
Yeah, that was
down
rough.
my throat, and it came out my
That
butt.
was rough. Let's take it back a little bit. So, what kind of got?
Oh, hold
Yeah.
on though. War of the Worlds.
Oh, okay.
That's what. Yeah.
Wow,
War
holy
of the
shit! Yeah, that would be great. I can see that for sure.
Ooh.
You kind of did that with Zim. I feel like there's a lot of War of the Worlds. in
No,
Zim.
no. Like War of the Worlds to me is, I would not make it a funny thing. Obviously.
Oh, okay.
Like it's just one of those things that I feel that it's never been made. It's never been made properly. They came close. There was a recent BBC version of it. Well, recent in the last I don't know how many years, but it still wasn't quite right. They changed. They always feel that they have to change it to the point where it undoes a lot of what the book was about, and it always bugs me.
Yeah, I get you. So, what got you into doing Johnny? And like, was that just something you started making, and then it was published, and then it kind of started to gain some traction?
I mean, I was doing Johnny in high school.
Right.
If
Oh, wow.
yeah, if you could imagine like doing a book about a serial killer in
I
high school
can.
now, it's just
Oh, no, not now.
Yeah, it's just not a
Wait.
thing.
Hold on. So, did you get a book deal, or were you just kind of like doodling it? Kind of like, was it like the development kind of phase of Johnny, or were you actually like getting published in high school?
No. I was getting published in the school paper.
Oh,
Yeah, different times. It was different times. I could do a comic about murdering students, and
man, no kidding. What a different time.
and nobody went. We got to keep an eye on this kid.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
interesting.
It's been fascinating and shitty to see just how awful things have gotten.
yeah. I mean, it's not, you don't know what's a red flag and what is just somebody working through their normal teenage angst. Because like, I definitely, yeah, I definitely like would make stuff that was like, yeah, like you see. There's a lot of stuff that now everyone has eyes on and they judge it so harshly. But I think when you're a teenager, you're just working through things. Like you're just kind of stupid and you're just trying things and like.
I'm not teenage me anymore,
Sure.
but I'm pretty sure I wasn't working through anything. I just thought it was funny.
Okay.
I really just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
You know, that's always been, especially with like with Johnny to a lesser extent Zim, but still there's still shades of it. It really was stuff that was made. Again, it was made for me, and I always hoped that the people who liked it were like me enough to know that it's not cool. It's just
Yeah.
funny. It's just stupid. There's a certain amount of style to it, especially when the comics came out. You know, I was definitely trying to impress me and my comics publisher. Like, oh yeah, you made a good decision picking me up. Yeah, you'll check this out. I'm gonna make serious comics.
Yeah.
But it was always from a place of just thinking it was really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like stupid in a good way. Stupid in like a haha, look at these awful people. This is funny.
Right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, but I was definitely fucking 19 years old when I was doing the comics anyhow, and trying to like show off. Like look how like not only is this funny, but look how smart I am.
Yeah.
And I read that stuff, and it's just, you know, I think it's part of the appeal. It's part of like someone, I don't know. I did an interview recently, and one of the questions was, why do you think that the comics still have the comics and the animation? Why do you think the comics have so much appeal to a young
Sure.
audience still?
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I don't think that was an interview for me. I think I was watching. I think it was like a bunch of the Zim crew answering that question.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's because it was made by someone that was of that age. You know, it's that
Yeah.
like hilarious mix of arrogance and
Mhm.
absurdity.
Mhm.
And I think people pick up on that. Even if I'm not proud of some of that stuff, I think that it's funny that people connect to that, and hopefully, then they grow up.
It is endured, yeah.
How do you like feel about that? Actually, I was that was kind of on my mind as well, because I remember like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac for me was like such a big thing when I was a teenager. I was just like, wow. And I haven't like, yeah, it was just like, I don't know, like I said earlier, like I had never seen anything like that, and it was
Is
just
this
kind of different.
sorry, not to interrupt? Is this
Mhm.
green the only this
Oh,
like
yeah.
pukey
Yup.
pea green?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Sorry.
god!
Just roll with it.
Sorry, V. Go on. I didn't mean to
That's
interrupt you.
okay. No, I was just gonna say, and it's I don't know, there's like something just like I don't know, it like kind of hit a lot of the things that I was kind of feeling and thinking about as a teenager, I guess. So I think like I don't know, there was like I had like a really strong connection with that work, because I think it was kind of like the zeitgeist, like it was the right moment, the right time, the right
Yeah.
content, and I was just. And how do you feel about your content being like, yeah, I guess like received really strongly for like a teenage audience?
That's one of those things that I still haven't come to any real satisfying conclusion to. It's weird thinking about. I talk about it more than I actually understand it. It's weird being part of someone's life
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
in that way. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
definitely.
Mhm.
It's strange to me, and I a part of me always wants to feel strange about it.
Mm.
I've got some fear of becoming complacent and arrogant.
Mm.
Mhm.
No, I
Yeah,
totally get it.
mhm, Yeah.
I mean, not every, but I guess there's like a running theme in all of my characters, in that they're kind of pieces of shit. And so it makes me very sensitive. It makes me hypersensitive to what it is that makes a person a piece of shit, which isn't to say that I'm like a fucking angel or anything like that. But there are just certain qualities where you're like, okay, I don't think I'm this person yet. And that's good. I don't want to be this person.
You've made your own characters your barometer for
Yeah.
shittiness.
Yeah, it's like I make them. You have to be conscious of what makes a horrible person, and I don't necessarily think that being aware of it makes it obvious that it's because you're a horrible person. But I know what it's like. I know why a person would think what they think. To a certain extent, you have to kind of relate to how a
Right,
person can
mhm.
be shitty, and it helps. It helps. I guess it'd be like an alcoholic that keeps like just a fully stocked bar.
Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, do you feel like it kind of helps you like relate to them in some
Yeah.
to some extent?
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if it's about it helps me relate to them. I think I fear that I am them, and so it's like I'm consciously trying not to be them. So, because I think awful people. I mean, who doesn't fucking love hideous characters who behave terribly? I mean, it's its own genre. Like, people are fascinated with villains, and I've always been fascinated with villains, and I'm always disappointed when a villain isn't given like enough attention.
Yeah, that's always a bummer.
Like every Marvel
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
It's like come on, like give this guy a little bit more love.
I love a good villain.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just this running theme of characters who we were talking about like kids or younger people liking Johnny.
Sure.
Mhm.
And it goes even that far back. Like, when I was working on Johnny was very much just a villain to me, but there was definitely fun in presenting him as I'm still a 19-year-old writing a villain. I don't know shit about the world, but I'm having fun. It was fun. It was just fun to have a character that I thought was cool, but also I didn't want to be him.
Mm-hmm.
There were things that I would like to have, qualities that I would have loved to have had that he possessed, like he doesn't have to sleep.
Interesting. Yeah.
But he's not the good guy, and I always knew that. So I guess if there was any discomfort, it was in it's mostly popped up, as I got older, thinking like, oh man, I maybe it's good that I did. Obviously, it worked out that I did it at the age that I did it, but I don't think that I had the skill to pull off what I would like to have pulled off, to have had like a cool character that was the villain, that was as likable as he was still obviously a piece of shit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what would you have rather?
Yeah.
What would you have rather? Like, what would you wanted to do more with it?
There were, it was there. It was all there. I just didn't. It just maybe wasn't there in the right amounts. Because there was a bit that pops up towards the end where Johnny says you're always a slave to something, and he says that it's from him. It's an arrogant statement. He is the arbiter of truth. He knows everything. He knows who should live, who should die. He's telling Squee, how to truths about the world, but it's just coming from one guy.
Mhm.
Johnny assumes that he is the end all be all and he's got all the answers, but he's just another piece of shit in the world.
Mhm.
He's killing, like, he's not just killing bad people, he's just killing people.
I see. That's interesting. I see what you mean.
One of the funniest things, or I don't know, it's a kind of funny, is I'll get fans who are not quite fans. They've gone dark.
Oh no.
there's like a breed of fan that maybe they were fans at some point, and then something along the way turned them, and then they suddenly hated me. And every time I would get emails or just now I get messages on Instagram, or I'll still get emails. They'll write to talk shit about me or do whatever.
Sure.
But they sound like it makes sense that these people were fans of Johnny, because when I look at Johnny's dialogue, I'm just like, he's just insufferable. He's he's like, oh, it's really it's almost kind of cute, because it's like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
aren't smart enough yet. You're not smart enough yet, but you're so in trying to sound sinister and evil and intellectual, it just kind of betrays their age, and it just sounds like not, you can tell that they're usually very bright sounding, but they just don't have the experience, and they just sound like children trying to sound like Hannibal Lecter.
I know. Yeah.
I
I get you.
see.
Do you feel like it's
Mhm.
sort of kind of like when people start idolizing, like, Rick or Walter White, where they like miss the point that the creator was trying to make, that is like, this character should not be idolized. Like, this is like, this is like a villain, and we're just watching a villain that is like fun to watch, but they see it and they start empathizing too much. Do you think it's sort of similar to that?
I think it's similar to that, but I think a lot of that is my fault. Johnny, it does, to a certain kind of person, he's cool.
Yeah.
Like I wanted him to be, I wanted him to be back then, but I also, it's just like Zim, I think Zim is much more obvious. He is a villain, but he's a buffoon.
Right.
I have a fascination with arrogant villains. I have a fascination with arrogant heroes, people who, to hopefully the audience, are clearly, they need work. They're not done cooking yet, but they think they're above it all, and they see how things should be better and how things should be in general. And
Yeah.
it's just fun to watch someone. We just love watching. I love just watching idiots
Yeah.
who don't know that they're idiots. And as and part of that is just a fear that, oh my God, I think I'm an idiot. Oh God, I don't want to be an idiot.
Yeah, that's a very relatable
Yeah,
feeling.
definitely.
I feel like with Zim, it's like a lot more obvious because he's got like Gur and like the other characters around him that can like kind of point finger, and also obviously like the oh, I'm so sorry, I'm a terrible fan.
The
John, please don't be
worst.
mad at me. But like the elders, like who sent him.
Oh
on
yeah, the
planet
almighty
Earth,
tallest.
yeah, like they obviously make fun of him, so that like as an audience, right off the bat, like okay, he's an idiot. Like with Johnny, I think it's a little bit more of a delicate balance because there's not really anyone that's like,
No.
and I think also because he takes care of Squee, there's like that thing where you're like, he's a good guy
Right.
because he takes care of the little
Interesting.
guy. Yeah, that's
So
kind of.
there's-
I remember as a teenager, listen. You know what? I'll just say it. I looked up. I didn't like look up to Johnny, but I was like, he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's watching out for this little kid that he sees in a bad situation. You know, yeah. I think you can be a horrible nightmare of a being and still have good qualities. You know.
Yeah,
You can-
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's why people like Johnny. I think it's because I also there was like a year where I definitely got very into Johnny, and I still have all those books, but like when you're that age, you're just looking for like escapism, and you're looking for somebody to look up to, and when you're
Oh, you guys are on a whole other page. Oh man.
yeah, we're on page 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's cooler.
Yeah, we're just drawing your character.
Holy shit. Oh, this is great.
Yeah, and so like, yeah, and Johnny kind of represents that. I think it's like this cool, sort of edgelordy. It's because I was like goth adjacent in high school, and I really wanted. I wished I was goth, but I never quite got there. And so for me, Johnny was that. And I think I always understood that there was definitely a layer of humor and irony to it. Maybe not everyone
yeah.
would.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, but even all the serious stuff and all the like the angsty stuff, like it's what I was thinking. A lot of it I was thinking, and I was processing through all those things. And so like I think whether or not you intended it for that, I think that's why it kind of still resonates today, is because teenagers go through the same shit year in, year out, the self-loathing and the like thinking you're better than everyone. And
Well, I feel like also when you're a teenager, you're at that moment of your life when you want independence, but you're not ready to be independent because of like the expectation of society. So like with like money and like paying rent and all that stuff. So like your brain is almost there, but your status is just like still you got a little little way to
Yeah.
go. So there's kind of this,
You have nothing but time to think about
right.
your version of the world.
oh god, yeah,
That's true.
I wanted
While someone's, if you're lucky,
Yeah.
while someo's taking care of you
Sure.
and worrying about all the boring shit.
It's a lot of suburban kids that end up kind of being that way, because I think it is. It's like if you're lucky enough to not have to worry about your livelihood or anything, you're still going to go through those same feelings of those growing pains, but they're just going to be channeled into weird things because you're like, where else do I put all this energy into? And so that's where you get like the mall goths and all that.
Yeah, I never really got into all that stuff. I think I had like aged out by that point. Like the whole concept of like goth and stuff. I always associated goth with being more flowery and not. It wasn't my universe at all.
Interesting.
More like The Cure, kind of.
No, just pretentious. Pretentious and like I just always liked people that weren't taking things too seriously. Not that I don't have a flair for drama, but I just always connected goth with just try hard and
Yeah.
it just but that's just my when I hear the word, I just think of, oh my god, this fucking program is terrible.
Yeah, it blows.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
We're sorry.
It's like undoing my lines.
Yep. That'll happen.
They're all gonna pop up in 10
Yeah,
minutes.
you're gonna see what drawing you did a minute ago. It sucks. We haven't figured out a better one. Anyway.
I was gonna go back to kind of like a little bit of a timeline. So you said you were taking a little bit of like art classes when you were like in high school, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Were those kind of extracurricular, or were those kind of art classes that you took in high school?
Yeah, well, around junior year, I spent like a summer course at a college while still in high school. And mostly sculpture, actually, at that point. I wasn't doing, yeah, and that was great. I love that.
Would you want to do more?
Yeah, I'd love to do more three-dimensional stuff. It just feels good, especially these days. Like, it would just feel nice to feel connected with materials a little bit more. Everything is, I mean, this program is really making
Yeah,
me
the
wanna-
digital barrier. I gotta say, well, I got into model kits because I was staring at screens all day, and so I wanted something to do with my hands. Maybe you should get back into sculpting.
Yeah, I don't have like a good studio space like I used to. I need to. I'm looking to go somewhere else that has I don't know. I need space. I'm just gonna move out in the middle of nowhere where I can just have like a giant fortress
to the desert.
for $10,
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That's the dream.
or just live in the desert. The desert will be my studio.
Hey, a lot of people go to Arizona because of that, because it's just all desert and rent is cheap.
cheap.
Yeah, it's like you buy a house for like $10.
Yeah, like you were publishing Johnny in the high school newspaper. So first of all, kind of when did you decide to kind of take it to a publisher, or how did that happen? How did you make that jump from it being in a high school newspaper to it being published?
It was a few years after. I think not too long after high school. Was it my friend? Was it Brad Crab Scrambly, friend of mine? I think I met them through. I made some friends through a friend, and I think he might have been working or just associated with them. They were doing a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing a magazine at the time, like a spooky magazine. And they were good people. They were very friendly. And I don't know if I pitched it or if they brought it up, but I just ended up doing Johnny as a comic in their magazine. So it was like my first outside of high school publishing gig. And it was well received. It was it was just more Johnny stuff at the time, pretty typical of the Johnny format. Someone gets hurt and then you laugh.
Yes.
And then shortly after that, I took a bunch of comics over to my eventual publisher, Slave Labor Graphics, who they were doing stuff back in the day, and it just really wasn't much of a process. It was just very very casual.
Yeah, because you already had the comics done, so you could just kind of like show it to them.
Yeah, I didn't do anything original for that. That was I was going to call it a pitch package, but it was literally just like a manila envelope full of just loose comics. And I was like, here you go.
That sounds great. Back in the day.
How big was
Slave labor? They were very small. They had like maybe enjoyed some like indie fame for some stuff in the I think late 80s. I'm not really sure, but when I was there, when I first met them, they were operating out of a TV repair place.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's great.
and then my comics did pretty all right for them, and they I got to see them move into nicer and nicer digs, and they're not really publishing so much anymore. I think they're still around in name, but they've converted their space to like a performance space for live, like a live venue.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. They did like some kind of horror compilation that I was in once. That's my only real connection to SLG. But what got the attention of Nickelodeon? Because I know they were just kind of sniffing around.
The comics.
Yeah, the comics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was the comics. I think it was kind of like the early days of I don't know if it was the early days, but for me it was when I first became aware of like studio execs trolling conventions and comic book stores for ideas. So Mary Harrington, who was the eventual executive producer on Zim, she saw Squee. So it must have been around. Oh wait, no. Did she see Squee? What year was this? Either way, she saw my comics and got a hold of me. She contacted Dan. She contacted Slave Labor. It's like, hey, we want to talk about we're going to talk to Jonan about blah, blah, blah. And Dan put them in touch with me, and I met up with them, and we got Chinese food.
That sounds nice.
They just picked my brain, and I just thought, cool, I could maybe work on a cartoon. Before that, I had actually been approached by MTV.
Oh yeah.
And I said, no, thanks. I'm working on my comic right now. I'm a little busy. And which is so funny. And then I think by the time I was working on Squee, it was coming to an end, and so I took the Nickelodeon offer. more seriously. And then it just kind of like with pitching the comic, it just the animated stuff just kind of happened. I don't know if that stuff happens anymore, but it was just so easy.
Yeah, that's not how it goes anymore.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
like-
It just went, and there was really not a whole lot of resistance.
How was the process like? Did you have to like do a pitch with like a Bible and all that stuff? Or
Yeah,
could you
yeah,
just
we did a
kinda-
Bible. We did a Bible.
Mhm. Did they help you with that, or did you kind of?
I